everyone, and welcome back to another video. My name is Juan Londoño, and today's topic is your image as a photographer. And yes, the pun is intended. This isn't going to be a long video, but it does bring up a very good point that I think many of us, including myself, tend to disregard. So let's dive into it and let's see why it's so important. Many photographers, and keep in mind when I say many photographers during this whole video, I'm going to include myself in this conversation. Many photographers jump into photography without regard to their image. So what's important to them? Well, what's important to all of us as photographers, right? That we understand photography enough, that we have decent equipment, that we're getting out there. So whether it's through social media or cards or whatever it is, we're getting our name out there. Those are the things that matter to us originally when we're sitting down trying to figure out how we're going to make money from this hobby and turn it into kind of a profession. We start to think about these things. These are the obvious things, right? Is my equipment good enough? Do I need to upgrade? Do I need better lenses? Are my skills all there, or do I need to sharpen them, right? Do I have the right software editing tools? Do I have the right place to shoot pictures, right? Do I have a basement or a garage or somewhere where I can shoot portraits? If you live in a place where the weather's always nice, that's not so much a problem. Here in Georgia, it's not terribly cold, but it does get pretty cold in the winter. So portraits outside is kind of out of the question, unless that's the topic, right? So my point here is that we talk about so many things as photographers, and we tend to overlook the fact that our image is so important, right? Many of us are into anime, video games, all kinds of hobbies and interests, and our social media is plagued with this stuff, right? Because it's what we enjoy, it's what we like, our families and our hobbies, and then we decide to launch a photography business, and we want to keep that social media account. Well, it might not be such a great idea. If you already know that you're going to be launching yourself as a professional photographer, then make sure two things, right? One, that your social media is clean, right? That nobody can go on there and blame you or hold something against you. You don't want that. You don't want, especially a client, right? That's kind of trying to get to know you because they're thinking about hiring you, and they go through your social media account and all your pictures are gothic and bloody and whatever, right? You get where I'm going. So number one, make sure it's clean. Number two, make sure your social media accounts, I should say accounts, right? Because there are many different ones. Make sure they represent you and your work. Many photographers, like I mentioned earlier, many photographers will create a separate social media account for their professional work. But people can find you, right? So make sure that all your other stuff is clean, right? Don't assume that they're just going to find your professional social media account and that's it. They may find your other accounts in the process of looking for you professionally, and you want to make sure that what they see is not something that's going to shy them away, scare them away, or disappoint them. So for example, if you do create this other, social media account or accounts for your professional work, make sure that they kind of mirror the kind of work you want to do. So say you want to get into weddings, right? When people open up that social media account, it should be bombarded by wedding images, right? Now people say, well, how do I get started? I mean, how do you do that? Well, you do that the way I did it. You hire models. Sometimes you have to pay. Sometimes you don't. The models are doing it for pictures. I did a lot of that. It's called TFP, time for print. So you hire a model that's kind of new, and she needs or he needs the pictures as well. So you both work TFP, time for print. So the model doesn't pay you, you don't pay the model, you're kind of both doing it for the pictures. And you may find a makeup artist that's willing to work TFP. So the three of you get together, right? And what I did, and this is just a suggestion, it may work for you, it may not. You might not even like it. I went to a local bridal shop and I spoke to the owner and I said, this is my concept, this is what I'm trying to do. And if you lend me 4 or 5 dresses, in return, I'll give you these images in high resolution. Not only will I give you the images in high resolution, what I did was I picked about 2 looks per dress, right? So I wouldn't just give the person everything that I shot. So, you end up giving them like 10 really good pictures. But I told the person as well, the owner of the store, when you look through those pictures, and actually I may have given it to them in lower resolution. I said, when you look through those pictures, I'm going to let you pick, you know, 4 or 5, I can't remember, and I'm going to make them in print for you, right? Now, back then I had a printer that printed a decent size, but it wasn't big enough. So I actually had the work done, but it wasn't terribly expensive. It's paper, right? And they get them and they can frame them. They can do whatever they want with them. So the owner of the shop was a woman. She was a lovely lady. And she said, I love the idea. I love that you're doing this. She went right away, said, what are the sizes? I had the sizes with me. I was ready. And I gave her the sizes and I took off. I had the models ready. They were from a modeling site that I subscribed to. And there were new models that were willing to work for pictures. I was working for pictures. The makeup artist was working for pictures. We went to a warehouse that belonged to a friend, and we shot all day. We had a blast. We had a great time. And I ended up with enough pictures that if I wanted to launch a website that was strictly wedding kind of oriented, I would have had plenty of bridal pictures to put on there that day. So you may want to think about doing something like that. Just hire a bunch of models. You don't have to do it all the same day. You could, you know, every weekend you can hire one and just go get a, you know, and you know, it doesn't even have to be bridal for that matter. If the makeup and the hair tends to be bridal, they can have, you know, you can get away with the dress, you can get away with different things and still make them look like bridal shots because, you know, you're also shooting other people in the wedding party. You're not just shooting the bride, right? But you do want a couple of pictures of a bride that looks like a bride with a wedding dress, and maybe a bride and a groom. We did something for a magazine and I used some of those pictures as a bride and groom as well. So think about how you're going to do that, but there are many, many ways of doing it. But you want your social media account to be bombarded by images. If you're doing baby pictures, then you want to tell all your friends, I'm shooting baby pictures. You know, if you want your kids, your toddlers, whatever, photographed, let me know. I'm doing it for free because I need pictures for my website. I need pictures for my social media account. That's a great way to get started. In general, if you're planning to shoot people, which is what most of us end up doing, then you want your website or your social media account to have plenty of pictures of people, right? And you want to capture people in warm, tender moments. That's what you want to be seen as that type of photographer that captures those special moments. And it also makes a person feel good when they're going through your site and all the pictures kind of display warmth and love, right? That says a lot. So think about the poses, think about the look that the people give each other in the shots. Sometimes it pays to shoot people that know each other because they can give themselves that look naturally. Sometimes that might not be a good idea, right? Depending on the couple that you're photographing. If you're photographing a couple that's always fighting, that might not be a good idea. But you know what I mean, right? You want warm, tender moments captured in your pictures. Photography, especially when you're selling yourself to the world, is a lot more than just how good you are as a photographer. It's also about how good you are as a person. And that comes through in your pictures. And even if it doesn't because it's posed and faked, that's what we as photographers have to let our customers believe, right? That, you know, that we can take those warm, sentimental pictures because that's what a wedding is. It's a warm, sentimental day, and it's full of all types of emotions, not just love. There's bitterness sometimes. I've seen people curse at each other in weddings, and people get very uptight and nervous and stressed. But for the most part, right, the couple that's getting married, it's a big day for them, and it's a very, very sentimental day, very emotional. So you want to relay that feeling to people when they go through your website, through your book, through your social media account. You want to relate to them that you can capture those moments. So photography isn't just how good you are as a photographer, how good your equipment is. It's how good you are as a person. And part of that is being aware of people's feelings. I know that the couple getting married cares about how the pictures come out. They want their pictures to come out warm and loving, right? So if I care about them as my customers, then my social media, my website is going to have all types of pictures that relay that because it's going to attract them to me and I can really show them what I'm about as a photographer, as a person, right? But if my pictures are cold and they're just kind of, yeah, great photography skills, but there's no love in the pictures, there's no warmth, they're going to go to another photographer that makes them feel that way. So if you care about people, right, you go out of your way to present pictures on your website that show love and tenderness and kindness, and that in turn gets you that client, and you say, oh, but it's posed, it's faked. Yeah, but I care enough about them that I'm doing all this work to attract them. Sorry, to attract them. It's there, it's inside of you, right? When you care, you care. And once you get them as customers, of course, you treat them wonderfully, and you bring out that love and that tenderness in the pictures as well. So you want to shoot pictures that show your talent, of course, right? Your technical talent in photography, but you want to shoot images that also show that creative side, right? And that warm, tender, and kind side. You know, one cool thing to do is have your portfolio, whether it's a physical portfolio in print or a digital portfolio, have it looked at by, you know, 5 people. And I would say pick a random choosing here, right? Because if it's always people you know, they may give you the stuff you want to hear, right? So the feedback you want to hear. So be a little random, like pick maybe your boss at work, assuming you don't hate your boss or whatever, a couple of people at work and a couple of people at home, maybe a friend or two, and say, look at my portfolio. And this is what's going to be different here. It's not, what do you think of my pictures? It's, when you look at these pictures, what would you think about the photographer? And people, and you know, and when you do this, tell them, forget about me, pretend you don't know me. Look through these pictures. If you had no idea who they came from, looked at all these pictures, close them down, close your eyes for a second, and say, what kind of photographer am I imagining would have shot these pictures? And you can give them some examples. Say, is it a kind photographer? Is it a photographer who doesn't give a shit? Is it a photographer who's really good technically but doesn't bring out special moments in people? You know, what kind of photographer do you think shot these pictures? Now, if you want to go a step further, you can actually approach some people that you don't know that well. Whether it's a neighbor, but you kind of still know your neighbors, right? But that might be a good one because they don't know you that well. So you go to a neighbor that you're comfortable with and you ask them for that favor. If you don't feel like setting up, you know, a separate social media account or a website, just make sure that your existing stuff is clean and that you can start adding, you know, all kinds of, you know, bridal or baby photography or whatever your genre is, and there's nothing in there that's going to scare people away. If you're shooting, for example, fashion and gothic type pictures, then you want to be edgy. You want your pictures to be highly creative and very edgy, right? Because you're not trying to attract people that are shooting loving wedding pictures and baby pictures. You want edgy. For example, I have a whole section of black and white nudes that I shoot, right? So I associate myself with models that are very comfortable displaying their body. And when I photograph them, I befriend them on social media sites, I befriend them in the modeling agency site and all that stuff. So when you go through my social media, you're going to see that my friends are these very risque portfolios because those are the kind of pictures that they shoot with other photographers. It has nothing to do with me. And to be honest with you, since I'm not shooting brides and babies, you know, I don't care if those are my friends on my social media accounts because when I shoot with them, they're wonderful people, right? And I get my job done with them and we shoot these beautiful black and white nudes and they go on and they do whatever photography they want to do, right? So are people judging me by the friends that I carry on my social media site? Maybe, but I don't really care. What I care about is continuing to meet people that are comfortable this way because those are the pictures that I'm shooting. If I want to do gothic, if I want to do edgy pictures, these are the kind of people that are coming to be photographed by me. So that's what you're going to find on my social media accounts as my friends. Now, if I was shooting brides and babies, I would have to, you know, unfriend all of these people and I would have to just display different pictures, and that's what it takes. Keep in mind that colors are very important too. So for example, if you're shooting babies, start working with pastel palettes, right? You want to decorate the room that you're shooting in or the setting with pastel colors. You want pictures of sleeping babies, smiling babies, happy babies. You don't want pictures of crying babies and, you know, maybe one to show something funny that the mother or father is doing something with the baby and the baby got pissed off. But overall, you want, you know, these warm images, right? So think of color palettes too. For bridal, you know, the whites are very important, right? Obviously. And pastels, of course. If you're shooting fashion and gothic, then the blacks become very important and the darker colors. So just keep all this in mind. Now that we spoke about your image being represented by your work, there's something very important as well, and it's your actual headshot. Make sure that your headshot matches the style of photography that you're intending to shoot and the clients that you're intending to draw. So if you are shooting fashion and gothic, then it doesn't matter if your headshot has a black backdrop and is kind of edgier, right? If you're shooting babies, you want a warm color palette. You want maybe outdoors in a pretty setting. You want to be dressed with light colors, right? So keep all this in mind. It's all very important, right? We don't think it is, but in the grand scheme of things, when a person comes to your social media site, when they come to your website, the first thing they're going to see is, of course, the name of your business. So make sure the name's appropriate. The second thing they're going to should see is your image right there. Bam! This is the person I'm dealing with. And they're going to judge you right then and there. So make sure that picture is exactly what you want them to see. You want them to see somebody who's warm, who's easy to get along with, who has a smile. You don't want pissed off, bitter attitude in your... It's not the place, right? If you're shooting a different type of headshot for something else, that's fine. But when you're trying to get customers and you're trying to sell yourself, your headshot should be warm. There should be a smile, a smirk, whatever. And it should be an inviting headshot where the person wants to pick up the phone and call you. Pick up the phone like it's an actual phone you pick up. I'm still back in the 70s and 80s. You know, yes, yeah, I guess you still have to pick it up, right? So they want, you know, you want them to dial you and almost want to dial you. You know, see your picture and say, oh my gosh, let me call him and find out what his prices are, or let me call her and find out, you know, what she offers with this package. You don't want them to look at the picture and go, well, let me call him anyway to find out what the prices are, but we'll see. We'll see if let me check a couple of other prices because I'm not really, you know, other photographers because I'm not really sure. Don't let your headshot do that. Don't let your headshot scare people away. Don't let the name of your company or website scare people away. Those should be solid. Name, picture, and then you get into the pictures, the photography that speaks volumes about you as well. Some people ask about music on their websites and when they present pictures. You know, that's personal. I think if you're going to offer music on your website as people are looking at your pictures, or you're going to put pictures with music on Instagram and things like that, just make sure that it's something that can be muted, because not everybody likes the music that we like, right? So you may think, oh my God, how can somebody not love this song while they're looking at my pictures? Not everybody likes your taste. Not everybody likes my taste. So make sure if you have a website that there's a little mute button that's really visible that people can just click mute and they can just enjoy your pictures with their own music, right? Or make sure, you know, on Instagram you can do it right away, right? Of course, that's easy. And on your phone. So just make sure that that's an option, because that's kind of forcing people to go down a path that they might not enjoy. And if you think about it, that's why most sites don't have music, because when in doubt, just leave it out. So as a conclusion, we're here. We didn't talk about any beverages. I was drinking a little bit of orange juice. Usually I have water, but I'm under the weather a bit. I was traveling and, you know, airplanes do that. I get home and I get like a little cold or something. So it's all that recycled there. But as a conclusion, before we continue, please, you know, like the video down here, subscribe if you haven't already. Many of the people viewing the channel are not subscribed. It helps us a great deal to keep going. The more people we have, the more likes we have, it helps the channel a great deal. So as a conclusion, finally, the whole point here is that image is everything in business. And especially when you're dealing with people that don't know you from a hole in the wall, right? They're going to be relying on your picture, on the name of your company, and on the work that you present to kind of help them judge you and decide if they're going to want to work with you or not. Do what musicians do. Musicians crank out music that they think people want to hear. And bands do this all over. They've done it throughout history, right? And they get really, really famous. And then about 2 years, 3 years in, they start putting out the music that they like to produce, right? And by then they're so big and they have such a big following, yeah, they may lose some people, but for the most part, people will continue to follow them. And now they're doing the stuff they enjoy, right? So do the same thing. Because you're not famous or because you're not as popular, make sure that your pictures are pictures that draw your customers into your website, to your social media accounts, to your business. Once you've been established, once you've been doing this for a while and you're well known, then you can start putting your own stuff out there. It's not going to matter as much because by then you have a name. People are looking for you. They want you. Almost they don't really care what your website says and does because they've seen the work that you've shot for their friends. They've seen your work on websites or on, you know, whatever, billboards, and they know that they want you, right? At that point, it's different. Then you can be more creative and a little sloppier with what you present. But for now, while we're trying to all get started, just make sure that your social media and your websites are clean, they're kind, they're warm, they draw people in, they make people want to work with you. We are done for today. Thank you again for spending some time here with me. I really, really, really do appreciate your time. And from the bottom of my heart, I love you guys. Please, please take care of yourselves. And I will see you in the next video. Ciao for now. That's it. We are done. We are family.